up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Monday, everybody. I got a very special guest for you guys here today. I've had the pleasure of getting to know him here over the years, and I love talking to people who are in the trenches out there building real companies and doing real things. And we're going to get to him here in a second to break down everybody's favorite topic, which is automating freight sales and everything else that comes along with it. But it's Monday. You guys know what that means. We are diving in to This Week in Freight, powered by my friends over at DAT. We're going to do a lane analysis for you guys. And again, if you want your lanes featured on this show, just email them to podcast@thefreightcoach.com. My team sends me that. Again, I just need shipping city, delivery city, trailer type, and then we're going to break this down, because most importantly, you guys, fluctuations happen, things happen. I'm here to teach you how I personally assess lanes and go out there and actually move freight, because, you know, your boy actually moves freight. So today's lane that we're going to break down is Tampa, Florida, going up to Louisville, Kentucky. And I pulled this one in particular because when Dean Croak was on the show last Friday, we were talking about flower loads, early produce season that's going on in Florida. And we specifically broke down Miami to Charlotte. And I brought this one up because this is in the van side of things. And we were talking about how there's some bleed over and what that does during produce season and the spikes that come along with this. So as you guys can see on this year-long chart here, it performs the exact same way that Miami did for reefer freight. Okay, so what does that mean? Anytime there is a seasonal push for refrigerated freight, it affects the dry van lanes that are going out there as well. You're going to see a natural rate increase. So right now, it's kind of performing. It's about $100 higher than what it was at this time last year. And as you guys saw out there, Florida is hammering ELP and non-domiciled CDLs at a higher level than most states are. So that is naturally causing the rates to start to increase out there. And you can see this trend line, all right? So just like last year during this time, I would fully expect it to follow that exact same trend line throughout this year. So if you're going out there and you are trying to assess, how do I get long-term pricing with our customers? Because I think a lot of people are too much truck in hand and not thinking about the long-term relationship. I have some of my shippers that I work with, there's minimal that I'm out there with like contracted RFP pricing. A lot of them are truck in hand style quotes that come across, but I deliver them the exact same price throughout the year, because from my seat, somebody who, you know, actually moves freight, lanes don't jump as much as people want to think that consistently. All right. I'm not saying lanes don't increase in pricing, but like if you're going to get long-term customers, you got to weather some of these storms, especially around peak time and everything else, because we want to bring stability to our customers. It's out there. It's achievable. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be sitting up here, because this is literally how I've built my entire book of business around this, you guys. You don't need RFP customers to get air quote contract style pricing, because the majority of the freight markets that are out there, you guys, perform the same year in and year out. I'm not here to sell you fear. I'm here to sell you stability and how you can go out there and actually win long-term freight. And this lane is going to perform this way. It pretty much has every single year that I've ever moved freight. You guys, outbound Florida does the exact same thing every year, minus a couple of peak years that happened here recently. So again, you got to look at this, you guys, and you got to bring this consistency out to your customers. All right. Because if you're not, I guarantee you guys, somebody is. All right. So this lane, Tampa, Florida, Louisville, this is about as stable of a lane as you're going to find. And it's going to perform probably the exact same this year as we're going into the market. But as always, you guys, if you guys want your lane featured on this show, I will break it down. I just need you to email it over to my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com. So let's jump in, you guys. Let's break down some some interesting topics, i.e. automation and sales and everything else. And like I said, my guest today, you guys, he's been on the show. He lives this stuff, right? He's sold a company. He's starting another one. And I love entrepreneurs. And let's bring him up, you guys. I got Mr. Ed Stockman back on the show. Ed, thank you so much for taking the time, especially after running your half marathon yesterday, and you're probably on your 12th cup of coffee.
There's a lot of people limping around Austin, Texas this morning. That's for sure, man. That's for sure. But thanks for having me on, buddy.
No, absolutely. And when as soon as I saw you post what you were doing, and I'm like, I got to get you back on because, it's such a difference when you're actually in the trenches building stuff, and, you were with Neutral, you sold Neutral, and now you're out doing your next venture. So like, what's going on, man? What's new in your world here?
Dude, everybody's complaining about the lack of growth and kind of plateauing. Yeah. So like you just went through your market analysis. I'm super curious. I'm going to flip the script. How did you find that lane? How did you source that lane? How did you find shippers that run that? Like, what made you, like, let's just dive into the prospecting stage here, because this is kind of interwoven with the interwound with the storyline here. So like, walk me through how you got to that lane. Like, how did you start moving freight for whatever shipper you're moving for?
So the shippers and it's fun. I'm actually going to be releasing a show next week specifically on this topic, right? Because again, I feel like a lot of individuals overlook how you actually get customers and what you should do when you're starting fresh. Like I've had, with me being just an absolute glutton for punishment, Ed, I love starting businesses with zero guaranteed revenue. I think it's awesome to go out there, and I'm being completely sarcastic. I would never advise somebody to walk out. But like, I look at it like this, man. I own my backyard. Like out here in Arizona, I focused in Arizona. My business partner's in Minnesota. He's out there trying to find local shippers. And I think that is a logical first step. Everybody needs to own their backyard, especially if you don't have any customers, which a lot of people don't. And then again, it's like, well, how do I find shippers in the city that you live in? I look at it like this. What is your city known for? Most cities out there have that core commodity that's been shipping out of that location. Look, I'm born and raised in Wisconsin. Easiest way to put this, you will not find a dairy shipper outside of a 50-mile radius of every single city in the entire state of Wisconsin. They're everywhere, right? So it's like I take this stuff and then I look at it is so many people are only focused on how do I get freight today? And I get that, right? Like as somebody who's self-employed, I am very focused on how do I get revenue every single day. But I think there's a lot of fear in the market about, oh, it's so, it's fragile. It's so volatile. It's not. It is if you're constantly sourcing capacity every single day. And I when I go through this lane analysis now with DAT, it's all viewers submitted, right? So all listeners are sending in, and I'm just helping them assess the market. Like if I see today's data, right? How would I go out there and source this lane for my customer 12 months out of the year? Because yes, there is inevitable spikes that happen, but if you're going to get business long-term, Ed, you got to weather some of those storms. There's going to be times where you're going to break even, and then there's going to be times that you make money, or worst case, you lose a little bit of money, but that will always be cheaper than trying to get new business if you fail on a load.
You're talking about local prospecting, and you're talking about setting up for, I think, the difference between paying your bills today and generating a business tomorrow and long-term, something that's sustainable. And like, how do you balance that? Mm-hmm. So of course you got to keep the lights on and pay the bills today. That's your short-term. I need a load. I need to move freight. I need GP today. But most of the good sellers, the good organizations take a much longer strategic approach to this. Mm-hmm. So what you're describing is your kind of like localized approach of knocking on the doors, banging on the doors of the folks that are within a proximity of where you live today. Yep. What are the tools you use? Like, obviously you could just go bang on doors. Yeah. That's one thing. It's just your brain and your grit. But are you using a Zoom info? Are you using, different types of mapping software, using any other types of tools to be able to find the right contacts, find the right shipper? How do you understand what they ship? Do you care what they ship? Or is this more of like you're selling, steak knives door to door of, I don't know if you need this or not, but the only way I'm going to find out is if I knock on the door.
Yeah, it's a combination of, it's kind of like all of the above, honestly, Ed. It depends on how much money you have, right? Because it's like, if you have no money in your bank account, Google is a phenomenal tool to use. It will list off businesses that are similar to that. And then you can use an Excel spreadsheet, right? And you can track all of those companies that you're going after. And again, that's if you have no money. That's how I would recommend you do it. But if you have a little bit of coin where you can invest, dude, the lead generation software is phenomenal. All right. It doesn't close the business for you because you got to be able to actually sell. But there is so much information that's out there. And then again, utilizing a CRM. I think that was the biggest mistake I made in brokerage, by not utilizing a CRM, because I let leads fall between the cracks out there. But from my perspective, there is great tools that you can go out there, scrape the data, get the most up-to-date information on shippers. And I personally think what you're doing now with shipper intent data, dude, that is changing the game about how you prospect. Because I look at, and this is where, from my seat, Ed, I only have so many dials I can make in a day. All right. I have, as one man, I can only do so much. That's why I am so much like a pass, fail, yes, no kind of guy, where it's like, if I call somebody and it's no, okay, perfect. Boom. Now I can backfill that with a potential yes. And
those are very powerful.
They are, in a good way, you know? So it's like, the faster I can get to that, or, like we specialize in open deck. For the 95% of the freight that we do is flat steps, Conestogas, and stuff like that. Like, yes, we do some dry van work, but like, I look at it is the faster I can get to, no, we don't do flatbed at all, the better off I'm going to be. And that is just a style of business that I'm building from scratch. And I think that people spray and pray, Ed, way too much on what they're going after. They try and overcomplicate. They're trying, we'll do anything, please just get me business. I just need money. And then that comes across in their sales pitch. But like, with what you got going on now, man, like this is sales on steroids, where beyond a shadow of a doubt what they are doing before you call. And then that can help hone your pitch.
Well, it's not only that, it's how do we combine the multiple different phases of the steps in the sales process of what we've just talked about.
Right.
So kind of zooming out for 2 seconds, in this brief conversation so far, what we've talked about is prospecting, just identifying shippers that we want to try to find. We don't really know too much about them. We've talked about research. We've talked about contact identification. Who is the right contact at that shipper that I just researched? We've talked about actual value propositions and outreach, whether that's door to door, whether that's an email, whether that's a call. But we've also talked about, making sure that we can have the right narrative, the right value proposition to these folks. So what I'm really looking to do is kind of consolidate all of that into one single tech stack, where Optimus now has the data. We're partnering with different factoring companies. We're taking in their data. We're running it through an ingestion engine that we have. We're looking at the shipper. We're looking at the receiver, and we're understanding the movement of goods throughout the country. Real transactions. These are not hypothetical transactions. It's raw data. I don't care about the carrier that moved it. I don't care about the price. I don't care about these types of data points. What I'm really, really laser focused on is, if you told me a lead today or a lane today, that I understand the shippers that move that lane as much as possible. When you were doing your market analysis, I went ahead, I pulled up Tampa to Louisville, and I'm showing 102 companies that I have data on that have ran that lane in the last 30 days.
Yeah.
So like, these now become very actionable leads that I can now go and have a real conversation with. And then if we double click into that company, I understand a little bit more about their company, where their distribution centers are. I understand their other lane patterns and networks. And then I could click search contacts, and I could go ahead and see exactly who the decision makers are in transportation logistics. So I'm trying to go very, very deep and narrow into making sure sellers in this industry, whether it's a trucking company or a carrier, or a trucking company or a broker, have the best access to data that they have to be able to sell into another broker or another shipper.
Yeah. That to me is what I mean by like sales on steroids, because like, to have there is so much information that is out there now, Ed. And again, like not everybody has the industry experience that I do, that others do, where they can go to a company's website and be like, yeah, they're going to move it on this, and they're probably moving it into that. And that's why what you were saying earlier, I think, is one of the most overlooked steps in business development, because I look at it from my perspective. If I'm calling a company for the first time, I've never talked to anybody ever, I'm not going to ask them to marry me. Okay. And that's what a lot of sales reps do, right? Like I didn't get married on the first date. It took me a while to land my wife. And, but like, I think a lot of individuals they go for the kill shot right away. And for me, I'm just trying to get like, hey, how can I get just one yes out of them? Yes, we move flatbeds, or yes, we work with brokers. Okay, cool. I know how the market's performing. I know you get bombarded with people like this. Can I call you back in a month? And I'm trying to get them to verbalize that. Like, yeah, man, you can call me back in a month. Or they will tell me another valuable piece of information. Hey, Chris, we actually do not make any changes until November. So if you want any consideration, I need you to call me in November. How many dials did that save me between now and November by having that quick, brief 30-second conversation with them? And that to me is a very powerful stepping stone that a lot of people just completely jump over.
I think I completely agree. And it also completely depends on the size of the shipper we're talking about, right? Like when I was, and the real genesis of this is my experience leading go-to-market teams in brokerage. So I've hired and built a lot of sales teams. And after I sold Neutral to Highway, it was something that like very naturally came up in a lot of conversations is, what are you going to do next? Like, are you interested in VP of sales, head of sales, chief revenue officer type positions at a brokerage? And I just heard a lot of the same problems over and over and over again. And the way I used to talk about it with my sales teams was, your value prop to a small customer, to a mid-sized customer, to a large enterprise customer is very different. The enterprise customer cares about their bottom line numbers and EBITDA and how to automate and have a very efficient process. Your small customer cares a ton about margins and their profitability and just what they're making on that specific transaction. And freight bills are a huge part of that. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not saying that the enterprise customer doesn't care about costs, but they look at cost a little bit more holistically around, if I have to negotiate with all of these individual, that's time, that's money. Whereas that one transportation manager at a very small company, if they spent another 20 minutes on that load and got it down 50 or $100, like that could be a big deal for a small shipper. So when you think about like these different value propositions and the different lanes, I see so many people going in with very generic sales pitches on your single point of contact. We have a very reputable brand. We've been around for a really long time. You can trust me. You can call me anytime over the night or weekend, and I'll answer my phone. Like, I'm your guy. And like these pitches today just aren't sufficient enough for a shipper. So that's really the genesis of this, is let's give you more intel to be able to have a sophisticated conversation, and even more, put into Optimus the lanes that you're really good at. Let us integrate with your TMS. Let us look at what you're moving already. So I could just send you a notification and be like, pitch this shipper on this lane, and tell them you actually have 14 trucks a week delivering in Des Moines, Iowa. You should probably have a conversation with this particular shipper about the capacity that you already have there. And most shippers, most like salespeople, think about this hypothetically as like, I wish I had access to this data. I want to resell assets. But they don't actually have that type of structure within their brokerage where they're getting live feeds of all their capacity and all of their assets, and like being told where to resell because we have capacity here. So we're kind of just like bridging that. We're taking in the supply networks, giving it to the demand generation folks, the sales folks, and just trying to point them in the right direction and saying, this is a great overlap. This is a great prospect for you, but here's your value proposition. We did the prospecting, or you could manually go into the platform and do it yourself.
I just, this is where I think a lot of organizations miss the mark, Ed, on where AI tools are at, because like I look at it like I want to arm myself and my team with as much information about said specific prospect as possible, because what you said earlier about the generic sales pitches that are out there, they're everywhere. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say like mine probably doesn't sound generic at time. I'm sure it does, right? Because like it all depends on the prospect and in the moment and in people's buying interest, and for me, I have just found that when I'm calling a customer, whether it's a dry van shipper, refrigerated shipper, flatbed shipper, it doesn't matter. Plug and play all the terminology, you guys. You can create a format that you can interject into any mode that you're moving and actually have a meaningful conversation with the customer just to get a little bit of information. Because the fact of the matter is, there is still a surplus of providers out there. Like I'm not going to sit here and say that there isn't a shortage of people. People are reaching out to these organizations all day long. And if you think it's just freight, every industry, look at a building, if they have a vending machine, somebody's prospecting them every single day to try and get their vending machines in there. Carpet cleaning, everything, they're getting bombarded all day long. But I think like with where we are now with AI, you better have some substance behind your outreach when you're calling them. Because here's how I get past the gatekeeper 100 times out of 100. I ask them a question that they probably have never been asked before, specifically about their freight, and a securement question. They don't know that, but guess what? The shipping manager is going to know that, so they'll transfer me through. Does that guarantee that the shipping manager is going to answer? No, it doesn't. But here's what it does. It separates them, and it has me a base point to where I can start building some familiarity with that gatekeeper the next time I call.
That's creative. I love that.
But it's like, dude, how do you stand out? And again, this isn't for everybody. I still get people hang up the phone on me. But like for me, I want to be as armed as possible, because it is so rare that you get a decision maker on the phone, Ed. Like I would say this, anybody who sold pre-COVID, you could call a company probably 2 or 3 times and you'd be able to talk to the decision maker. Now, you might call 30 times before you even get them to answer the phone once. And if you do, you got 10 seconds to give them something to make them want to give you another 10 seconds to talk.
Yeah, it was the interesting piece about, I think, the intersection of where the market's at and how people are selling compared to what we're doing.
Yeah.
Where that inflection point or intersection really is kind of like what you're talking about, the value proposition, but it's more like a combination of understanding what you're good at, and being able to articulate that in a way that truly adds value to the customer. And a lot of folks don't even really know what their brokerage or their own organization is really good at. And they get so stuck into selling themselves every single day that it's like, you're talking about your brand, you're talking about your brand's reputation, you're talking about your reputation. Why haven't you spent one day this week and truly understood and dug into your brand's network? And why are you not reselling a network? If you go, and like we talked about earlier, if one of my objectives on any call is get to a no as fast as I possibly can. I was sitting with somebody that a broker yesterday, actually, after the run in Austin, and he was like, I really think, I should get you on the phone with my VP of sales. Like, this is awesome. This is a product that we would buy. And I was like, here's a 1.5-minute demo clip of mine. And I emailed it to him, and I was like, just forward this to your VP of sales. And he's like, why don't we just get on the phone? And I was like, why doesn't this person see my demo, express interest, and then we get on the phone? Like, there's no point in me getting on the phone if you have a demo that's 1.5 minutes, 90 seconds sitting in your inbox. And that's the difference of somebody knowing what we do and being interested or not.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put a 30-minute meeting on my calendar to explain what we do if I can get ahead of that with a 90-second demo and have somebody be like, this isn't necessarily, what we're looking for right now. And it's like, great, let's just expedite that and save ourselves 30 minutes.
It's because you've actually built a real company before, Ed. You know the value of your time, and you only have so many at-bats every single day. And that's my literal entire approach. And I think when you're out there developing a book of business, you don't have to offer everything. All right. Like, I understand not everybody like, for the first 7+ years of my career, I only did food and beverage full truckload in and out of the largest distribution centers in North America. Since starting this podcast, some of my best friends in the industry are ironically transportation managers at the largest companies out there. And they love what I talk about on the show on the fundamentals. And I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, you guys, nobody talks about the fundamentals. They all do that glossy eye in the sky elevator pitch. But like, these guys behind the scenes are telling me what their real problems are. Status updates. Nobody tells them what's going on with their freight. Billing. Nobody knows how to invoice them. Again, so it's like, if you're going to go out there and you're going to sell brokerage, your ability to sell yourself will, and again, like, this is where a lot of people fall off in the sales process too, because it's really hard to separate yourself in the prospecting phase. Because even if you think you have a unique pitch, Ed, you know that just as well as I do. They've probably been told that 100 times and been burnt by that exact same line at some point. But I look at it is in today's environment, there is so much information that is out there at your disposal. I think most people do need to start with one: full truckload dry van, full truckload reefer, full truckload open deck, and just stay there for a while. Because I guarantee you could build $100 million brokerage by just doing flatbed. And the beauty about what I'm doing here, guys, is I'm giving you a front row seat. I'm going to build $100 million brokerage by doing flatbed. And I'm going to show you guys that. Maybe you'll believe me then when I hit that number. But like, I don't think we need to go out in that spray and pray, let's do everything, offer everything style. Like, again, there's so much data that's out there. There's so much outreach that's going on. You could use a tool like yours and essentially have the entire DNA of a company and your prospect on your computer screen while you're calling them.
Yeah, I'm looking at some small and mid-sized shippers on the lane you mentioned, Tampa to Louisville earlier. Savos brands, food and beverage, Ashted Group, and then there's like the Lineage Logistics, Sherwin-Williams, General Mills, Caterpillar, type companies. But if I'm calling on these folks, the only thing I'm doing once a week, twice a week, is saying, I have capacity on this particular lane. Let me know when you need a hand. And if they want to tell me no, that they don't need help right now on that lane all day long, that's great. That's fine. There will become a point in time where a broker falls off, where a carrier falls off, where if they need to go to market on that particular lane and I'm in their inbox once a week on that one specific lane, I'm going to get that opportunity. And it's so much like, I would much rather get a reactive opportunity from a shipper than a proactive no, because my pitch is too generic.
Yeah, no. And you guys, literally, the beauty of this show, you could take my lane analysis. Ed just gave you guys like 6 free leads. There you go, you guys. Tampa to Louisville, drive in, go hit him up. Ed just laid it out there for you. And what he's talking about here is, it's extremely valuable, because like that is literally how I sell. All right. And again, I'm going to save anything further than that to my episode next week, you guys. I'm going to tell you guys exactly how I sell, exactly how I convert customers, and what I did to build our book of business into the 7-figure plus annual mark of revenue. Okay. I'm going to literally lay out the steps to help you guys build $1 million book of business. All you got to do is actually follow what I say, though, because like, I actually do it and live it. But Ed, I'm going to have you back on, man, because I think what you have built and what you're building now is exactly what is needed by the masses. So as long as I'm going to get you when you didn't just run a half marathon too, I think. Or next time I'll run a half marathon with you and we'll do the
Oh yeah. Let's do it, man.
Dude, how did anybody find out more about what you got going on now?
GetOptimus.ai. Fill out a form. We have a sales team that'll reach out to you, give you a demo, and there's probably some links to some YouTube demos as well to get you a quick snapshot and expedite the sales process for us.
Dude, I love it. If you guys can't find Ed, hit me up. I'll gladly put you guys in contact with them. You guys, Ed's the real deal. All right. He's built real companies. He's been in this industry for a long time. I love entrepreneurs who are in the trenches. That's why I love having him on the show. But that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard, which you better, because we literally gave you 5 leads in a lane on how to go out there and prospect a shipper, subscribe to the show. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Ayy, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the bag. Ayy, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast.